I stared at that hospital form, knowing it would either enslave me to a lifetime of lies or set me free through one word: no. My name is Eric Wilson, and I'm 32 years old. Each morning, I wake up in my quiet apartment, grateful for the strength to have walked away. My wife, Kayla Wilson, thought she could rewrite our future with a carefully orchestrated scheme. The ultrasound dates, her suspicious texts, the convenient timing, it all pointed to a betrayal she expected me to accept without question. My hands didn't shake when I refused to sign. Some might call it cold, but those who've been betrayed understand. True strength isn't in lashing out. It's in standing firm when everyone expects you to fold. Before I go any further, let me know in the comments where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow I will share a story you don't want to miss. But let me start from the beginning. I still remember that autumn morning when Kayla bounded into our kitchen, practically glowing. The maple trees outside our window were just starting to turn golden, matching her excitement as she waved the pregnancy test in front of me. "We're having a baby!" she exclaimed, her smile wide and bright. My heart did a strange flutter, part joy, part caution. We'd talked about starting a family, but something in her delivery made me hesitate. Maybe it was the way her eyes didn't quite meet mine, or how her fingers twisted the test stick nervously. That's amazing," I managed, pulling her into a hug. The familiar scent of her shampoo filled my nose as I held her, trying to process the news. "When did you find out?" "Just this morning," she said, stepping back. "I've been feeling off for a few weeks, so I finally took the test." She was already moving toward the coffee maker, chattering about nursery colors and baby names. I stood there, my mind working through a mental calendar. We'd been careful with protection lately, something about her cycle being irregular. The last time we'd been intimate without precautions was... I felt a cold weight settle in my stomach as I did the math. "Kayla," I said carefully, keeping my voice neutral. The kitchen suddenly felt too small, too warm. "Are you sure about the timing? I mean, could this baby be—" I couldn't finish the sentence. She whirled around, coffee forgotten. Her laugh was too loud, too sharp. "What are you trying to say, Eric?" The defensive edge in her voice made my skin prickle. "Of course it's yours." "Don't be ridiculous." But something in her reaction, the way she wouldn't look directly at me, how quickly she dismissed my concern, set off warning bells I couldn't ignore. I'd known Kayla for years, could read her tells like a book. When she was telling the truth, she'd face things head-on, meet challenges with that steady determination I'd always admired. This nervous energy, this deflection, it wasn't her. Or maybe it was a her I'd never seen before. "I'm just trying to understand," I said, forcing myself to stay calm. My hands wanted to clench into fists, but I kept them loose at my sides. "The timing seems—" "Stop it," she cut me off, slamming her coffee mug down hard enough to slosh liquid onto the counter. "Just stop. Can't you just be happy about this? Why do you have to analyze everything?" The morning sun streaming through our kitchen window caught the diamond on her wedding ring as she wiped up the spill, sending little prisms dancing across the wall. I used to love that effect, how it would catch my eye while we shared breakfast. Now it felt like nature itself was mocking the moment. Her words hung in the air between us. "Can't you just be happy about this?" The thing about truth is that it has weight. Even when you try to brush it aside, it sits there, heavy and unmovable. And standing in our sunny kitchen that morning, watching my wife avoid my eyes while she talked about our future, I felt the weight of something very wrong settling onto my shoulders. It was nearly midnight when I noticed Kayla's phone screen light up on the kitchen counter. She was upstairs getting ready for bed, and I was finishing up some work emails. I wouldn't normally look at her messages. Trust had always been our foundation. But something about the unknown number made my hand pause over the keyboard. The preview notification made my whole body go cold. "Wild night? Unforgettable. Hope the baby's not mine, lol." I read it 3 times, each word hitting harder than the last. The room seemed to tilt sideways as memories flickered through my mind. Her defensive reaction to my questions about timing, the forced cheerfulness, the way she'd been keeping her phone closer lately. My throat felt like I'd swallowed sand. The buzz of the bathroom fan upstairs cut off, and I heard Kayla's footsteps on the stairs. I stayed perfectly still, my heart hammering against my ribs as she walked into the kitchen. She was wearing her favorite old college sweatshirt, hair damp from the shower, looking so normal, it made my chest ache. "Hey," she said, reaching for her phone. Coming to bed soon? Who's texting you? The words came out before I could soften them. Her hand froze over the phone. What? The message that just came in. I kept my voice steady, even as my fingers pressed white marks into my palms. About the wild night. And the baby. For a split second, something like panic flashed across her face. Then it was gone, replaced by indignation so seamless I almost doubted what I'd seen. Are you spying on my phone now? I was sitting right here when it lit up, I said. Kayla, what's going on? She snatched up the phone, thumbs flying across the screen. Nothing is going on. It's probably just spam or a wrong number. Her voice took on that familiar defensive edge. I can't believe you're accusing me of something based on a random text. I'm not accusing. Yes, you are. She cut me off, eyes blazing. You never trust me. First questioning if the baby's yours, now this? What's wrong with you lately? The familiar scent of her shampoo, vanilla and something floral, drifted between us. How many nights had I fallen asleep to that smell, feeling safe and certain? Now it just made my stomach turn. I saw the message, Kayla. Clear as day. Show me then, she challenged, holding out her phone. Where is this mysterious text? I took the phone, scrolled through her messages. The unknown number was gone. My hands started to shake. You deleted it. She laughed, but it wasn't her real laugh. It was sharp, dismissive. Right. I magically deleted a message that never existed. Do you hear yourself? She took the phone back, shaking her head. I'm going to bed. When you're done inventing problems in our marriage, maybe you can join me. I watched her walk away, her footsteps angry on the stairs. The kitchen felt too big suddenly, too empty. I could still see the message floating in my mind, clear as a photograph. Wild night, unforgettable. Hope the baby's not mine, Lowell. But Kayla's voice echoed louder. You never trust me. I sat there in the dark kitchen, my laptop screen having long since gone black, replaying the message in my head. Over and over, like a movie I couldn't stop watching, even though I knew how it would end. 3 days after the text message incident, I suggested marriage counseling over breakfast. The words felt heavy coming out, like admitting something was truly broken between us. But I had to try, for the life we'd built, for the truth I desperately needed. Maybe it would help us communicate better, I said carefully, watching Kayla push scrambled eggs around her plate. The morning light caught her wedding ring, and I remembered slipping it on her finger, both of us so certain about our future. She looked up, surprised. For a moment, the defensive wall dropped, and I saw a flash of the woman I'd married. You really want to try? Yeah, I do. My voice was steadier than I felt. She agreed, and hope flickered in my chest like a fragile flame. I found a counselor nearby, Dr. Sarah Martinez, who could see us that week. The waiting room smelled like vanilla candles and new carpet, eerily peaceful for the weight of what we carried in. Dr. Martinez had kind eyes and a direct manner. She started with easy questions about our history, our goals. But 20 minutes in, she zeroed in on trust. Kayla, she said gently, Eric mentions concerns about honesty. How do you feel about that? Kayla's fingers twisted in her lap. He doesn't trust me. He reads my messages, questions everything I say. That's not what happened, I interrupted, the familiar frustration rising. I saw one message, by accident, that raised serious questions. See? Kayla's voice rose. He's doing it right now, accusing me. Let's pause. Dr. Martinez held up a hand. Kayla, can you tell me why the idea of discussing honesty makes you defensive? The room went silent. Kayla's face flushed dark red. She stood up so suddenly her chair scraped against the floor. I'm not doing this. This was a mistake. Kayla, wait. But she was already gone, the door slamming behind her. I sat there, apologized to Dr. Martinez, and drove home alone. A week later came the ultrasound appointment. I insisted on being there. It was still my child, as far as anyone knew officially. The technician was chatty, pointing out features on the grainy screen while taking measurements. She said, tapping keys on her keyboard. Based on the baby's development, I'm adjusting your due date. Looks like conception was actually closer to March 15th, not early March like we thought. March 15th. The night of the text message was March 16th. My stomach dropped as I did the math. Kayla and I hadn't been together that week. I'd been in Seattle for a conference. Are you sure about that date? My voice sounded distant to my own ears. Oh yes, measurements are quite clear. The technician smiled, oblivious to how her words had just shattered what was left of my world. She handed us the ultrasound photos. "Everything looks perfect." Perfect. I stared at the black and white image in my hands, the baby that wasn't mine, the proof I hadn't wanted to find. Relief and dread crashed through me like colliding waves. Relief that I wasn't crazy, that my instincts had been right all along, and dread at what that truth meant. Next to me, Kayla was very still, her face turned away. She knew what those dates meant too. We both did. I kept staring at the ultrasound photo, at the tiny profile that should have brought joy instead of confirmation of betrayal. The image blurred as my eyes burned, but I refused to look away from the truth it held. The ultrasound results haunted me for days. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus at work. Every time I looked at Kayla, all I saw were lies wrapped in a growing belly. I needed help, someone who understood the system better than I did. That's when I remembered Matt Reynolds from my pickup basketball league. He worked in hospital admissions, and I knew he'd seen every kind of family drama play out. We met at Murphy's, a quiet bar where no one from our usual circles would spot us. "Listen carefully," Matt said, leaning forward over his club soda. "The biggest mistake guys make is signing the acknowledgement of paternity form right after birth. Once you put your name on that paper, you're legally the father. DNA be damned." My fingers tightened around my glass. "Even if it's proven later that I'm not? Some states give you a tiny window to contest it, but it's a nightmare. Courts favor keeping the named father on the hook for child support, biological truth or not." Matt's eyes were dead serious. "Don't sign anything without a paternity test. Period." That night, I started a folder. First went in screenshots of the damning text message, carefully dated and backed up to 3 different places. I added the counseling session notes I'd requested, showing Kayla's reaction to questions about honesty. The ultrasound report with its damning conception date went her in next. I remembered the vanilla scent of that counselor's office as I organized everything chronologically. Strange how memory works. The smallest details stick with you when your world's falling apart. The next morning, I met with James Chen, a family law attorney Matt recommended. His office was deliberately casual, meant to put clients at ease. It didn't work. "The acknowledgement of paternity form is basically a legal trap," Chen explained, reviewing my documents. "Sign it, and you're accepting legal responsibility for that child, regardless of biological facts. The hospital staff will pressure you. They want the paperwork complete before discharge, but you have every right to refuse. And if Kayla pushes back, stay calm, stay firm. Request the refusal be documented in the medical record." He paused, studying me. "You've done well gathering evidence. Keep everything, especially those texts and medical records. They'll be crucial if this goes to court." That evening, I added Chen's business card and consultation notes to my folder. Each piece of paper felt like another brick in a wall between my old life and whatever came next. I remember standing in my home office, holding that growing file, thinking about how different things were just months ago. Last Christmas, Kayla and I had exchanged gifts right where I was standing, planning our future family. Now I was planning a defense. I bought a small fireproof safe from Office Depot, testing the combination 3 times before locking away my evidence. The metal was cool under my fingers as I spun the dial, each click echoing the rhythm of my heartbeat. The weight of secrets pressed down on me, smiling at neighbors who asked about the baby, nodding through Kayla's birthing class plans, all while knowing what was coming. Matt texted me that night. "Stay strong, brother. Truth always surfaces." I stared at those words for a long time, the phone's glow harsh in my dark office. The safe sat silent in the corner, holding paper proof of betrayal, waiting for the moment everything would change. The call came at 3:47 a.m. Kayla's voice was tight with pain. "It's time." My hands shook as I grabbed the pre-packed hospital bag, the one I'd helped pack while pretending everything was normal. The night was unusually warm for October. Remember those late-night drives where the world feels empty except for you? This was different. Every red light felt like an eternity, each one giving me time to think about what waited at the hospital. That folder in my office safe seemed miles away now. "Drive faster," Kayla gasped, gripping the dashboard. I pressed the accelerator, watching the speedometer climb. The hospital's emergency entrance glowed like a lighthouse, but instead of offering safety, it promised confrontation. The maternity ward staff moved with practiced efficiency. While they wheeled Kayla to labor and delivery, I filled out admission papers, my pen hesitating over each line. A nurse directed me to Kayla's room, where monitors beeped steadily and the air smelled of antiseptic. "Eric," Kayla reached for my hand as another contraction hit. "Don't leave me." I took her hand, feeling like a fraud. Here I was, playing the supportive husband while knowing what she'd done. The irony wasn't lost on me. She wanted my support now, after months of lies. Hours crawled by. I watched the sun rise through narrow hospital windows, painting the white walls gold. Each time a nurse came to check progress, I tensed, expecting them to appear with that form. Between contractions, Kayla's grip on my hand tightened differently, not from pain. "Be a man," she whispered, eyes fierce despite her exhaustion. "Sign when it's done. We can make this work." My throat closed up. Make what work? A lifetime built on lies? You ever notice how people use "be a man" when they want you to do something against your better judgment? The labor intensified. Kayla's face contorted with each wave of pain, and despite everything, my heart ached. This wasn't how I'd imagined becoming a father. In my dreams, there had been joy, not this sick dread in my stomach. "Almost there," the doctor announced. "One more big push." I remembered the day Kayla told me she was pregnant, how I'd felt that brief flash of joy before the doubts crept in. Now here we were, moments away from a birth that would either trap me in her lie or force her to face the truth. The room filled with focused energy. Nurses moved with purpose, the doctor gave quiet instructions, and Kayla bore down with determination. I stood there, still holding her hand, feeling like both participant and observer in someone else's story. Then it happened. That first cry. Sharp, demanding, alive. The sound cut through me like a blade, splitting my heart between what could have been and what was. The baby's wails filled the room, drowning out everything else. Kayla collapsed back against the pillows, tears streaming down her face. I watched the nurses clean and wrap the tiny form, my chest tight with emotions I couldn't name. Part of me wanted to step closer, to look, to pretend. Another part stayed rooted in place, Matt's warning echoing in my head. "Don't sign anything without a test." That cry kept going, insistent and real, each note another crack in my resolve. I stood frozen between duty and self-preservation, between the man Kayla wanted me to be and the man I needed to be for myself. The recovery room felt smaller than the delivery room, more intimate, which only made everything harder. Kayla dozed fitfully while a nurse showed me how to hold the baby. So tiny, so perfect. The weight in my arms made my chest ache with possibilities I knew I couldn't trust. You know those moments when your whole future balances on a knife's edge? This was mine. The door opened and Marjorie Lewis swept in, her gray hair perfectly pinned despite the early hour. She carried a manila envelope with purpose, her eyes finding mine immediately. The sight of it made my stomach clench. I knew exactly what was inside. "Eric," she said warmly, though her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "You must be overwhelmed. Such a beautiful baby." She paused, watching me cradle the infant. "The nurses mentioned there's some paperwork we need to handle." I gently placed the baby back in the bassinet, my fingers lingering for a moment on the soft blanket. The scent of baby powder and new life filled my nose, making my resolve waver. "This is just a formality," Marjorie continued, pulling out the acknowledgement of paternity form. Her voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "The sooner we get this done, the better. For everyone." The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as she spread the paper on the rolling tray table. My hands felt cold and damp. I remembered summer cookouts at their house, Marjorie's famous potato salad, the way she'd always treated me like a son. Now here she was, trying to lock me into a lie. "Think about what this means," she pressed, uncapping a pen. "This is your family, Eric. Your wife, your child. Everything you've always wanted." She wasn't wrong about that last part. I'd dreamed of being a father since I was young. My own dad taught me that being a man meant standing by your family, protecting them, providing. The baby made a soft cooing sound, and my heart twisted. "Just sign here." Marjorie tapped the line with her manicured nail. "Then we can all move forward together." For a moment, just one moment, I let myself imagine it. Coming home from work to a house filled with laughter, teaching a child to ride a bike, family dinners and bedtime stories, everything I'd thought my future held. The pen felt heavy in my hand. Marjorie watched intently as I leaned forward, the tip hovering over the signature line. Behind me, the monitors beeped steadily, marking Kayla's vital signs. The weight of the moment pressed down on my shoulders. That folder in my office safe seemed to burn in my mind. The text messages, the ultrasound dates, the counseling notes, all the evidence of a truth I couldn't unknow, no matter how much I wanted to. My hand trembled slightly, the pen casting a thin shadow across the blank line where my signature would change everything. The baby stirred in the bassinet, and I felt my chest constrict with an emotion I couldn't name. The pen hovered, waiting. My future balanced on its tip. The moment stretched like glass about to shatter. My hand still held the pen, but something inside me had solidified. Maybe it was remembering that text message, or the way Kayla had stormed out of counseling. Whatever it was, I knew what I had to do. I set the pen down carefully, deliberately. "Could you please call the nurse in?" I asked Marjorie, keeping my voice steady. Her smile faltered. "Eric, surely that's not necessary?" "I'd like the nurse present." The words came out firm but quiet. Kayla stirred in her bed, blinking awake. "What's going on?" The nurse, the same one who'd shown me how to hold the baby, appeared in the doorway. Her name tag read Leah. She took in the scene with experienced eyes, the form on the tray, Marjorie's anxious hovering, my rigid posture. "I need to formally state," I said, meeting the nurse's gaze, "that I decline to sign this acknowledgement of paternity until genetic testing confirms parentage." The room went deadly still. Then Kayla's face contorted. "You what?" She tried to sit up straighter. "After everything we've been through?" "Please document my refusal," I told the nurse, who nodded professionally and reached for her tablet. "You can't do this!" Kayla's voice rose sharply. "You're abandoning us? Now?" I kept my breathing even, though my heart hammered. "I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm requesting verification." "Verification?" She spat the word like poison. "I'm your wife. Who had an affair?" The words dropped like stones into still water. Marjorie gasped. "Eric, how dare you?" "The timing doesn't match," I continued, my voice level. "The text messages, the ultrasound dates." "You're paranoid," Kayla shouted, tears streaming now. "Mom, can you believe this? He's trying to abandon his own child." The nurse typed quietly, her face neutral but alert. I appreciated her steady presence as an objective witness. "If it's my child," I said carefully, "testing will prove that. But I won't sign without proof." Kayla's face turned scarlet. She grabbed the water cup from her bedside table and hurled it at me. I stepped aside. It crashed against the wall. "You coward!" she screamed. "You're supposed to be a man. Real men don't need proof." The familiar manipulation tactic washed over me without sticking. I'd spent too many nights preparing for this moment, strengthening my resolve. "Real men," I replied quietly, "don't let themselves be deceived." Her scream of rage echoed off the walls, bringing running footsteps from the hallway. "You're destroying everything. How could you do this to me? To us?" I watched her theatrics with a strange detachment. This woman who'd shared my bed, my name, my dreams. Now she was a stranger, desperate to trap me in a lie. The nurse moved efficiently, checking Kayla's vital signs as she continued to sob and shout. More hospital staff appeared in the doorway, drawn by the commotion. "I hate you!" Kayla's anguished cry filled the recovery room. "I hate you!" I stood my ground, letting her words wash past me. The unsigned form lay on the tray between us like a battle line drawn in paper and ink. As Kayla's screams subsided into ragged sobs, I pulled out my phone, hands steady despite everything. The nurse, Leah, remained nearby, her presence grounding me in reality. "I have evidence," I said quietly, "that I'd like documented in the medical record." Kayla's mother tried to intervene. "This isn't necessary." "Actually, it is." I opened my text message screenshots. On March 15th at 11:42 p.m., an unknown number sent this message to Kayla's phone. I held it up so Leah could see. I witnessed it arrive in real time. The nurse read it carefully, typing notes into her tablet. I remembered that night, the way my stomach had dropped, how the truth had crystallized in that single moment. Strange how life's biggest changes can arrive in just a few words on a screen. "The ultrasound," I continued, pulling up the dated medical record, "places conception between March 12th and 16th. I swallowed hard. I was in Seattle that entire week for a conference. Hotel receipts and flight records confirm it. "That doesn't prove anything," Kayla's voice cracked. "There's more." I scrolled through my phone. "The counseling session where you stormed out when asked about honesty. The therapist's notes." "Stop it!" Kayla covered her face with her hands. Leah looked up from her tablet. "Mrs. Wilson, I need to inform you that the baby's blood type has been recorded as AB negative. The room went still. I felt my chest tighten, even though I'd suspected hearing it confirmed was different. I'm O positive, I said softly. That's correct, Leah confirmed, her voice professional but gentle. And Mrs. Wilson, your records show you're a negative. It's a biological impossibility for two parents with those blood types to have an AB negative child. The silence that followed felt like glass about to break. No, Kayla whispered. Then louder. No, no, no. Her mother sank into the visitor's chair, face ashen. Kayla, what have you done? I watched my wife, the woman I'd promised forever to, crumple in on herself. Her shoulders shook as she buried her face in her hands, harsh sobs racking her body. The sound echoed off the sterile hospital walls, a funeral dirge for our marriage. I'm so sorry, she choked out between sobs. I'm so sorry. It was just one night. I never meant... I thought maybe... I'm sorry. I turned away from her breakdown and walked to the window. Outside, the city sprawled beneath a navy sky, countless lights twinkling like false stars. Somewhere out there was the stranger who'd actually fathered this child, probably sleeping peacefully, unaware of this moment. The glass felt cool against my forehead as I stared into the darkness. Behind me, Kayla's sobs continued, punctuated by her mother's shocked questions and Leah's quiet, professional responses. But I barely heard them. All I could focus on was my own reflection in the window, ghostly and transparent against the night beyond. 6 years of marriage, countless shared dreams, a future we'd planned together, all of it now as intangible as my reflection in the glass. 2 days after that night in the hospital, I met with my attorney. The evidence spoke for itself. Screenshots, medical records, counseling notes, and the definitive blood type documentation. He nodded as he reviewed each piece. This is as clear-cut as it gets, he said, organizing the papers into a neat folder. You never signed the acknowledgement of paternity form. Combined with this evidence, you're completely protected. I remembered how my hands had trembled holding that pen, how close I'd come to signing away my future. What happens now? We file for divorce immediately. Given the circumstances and documentation, it should be straightforward. He was right. The proceedings moved quickly, my evidence leaving no room for debate. Kayla didn't contest anything. She couldn't. The truth had stripped away her leverage, leaving her to face the consequences of her choices alone. Through mutual friends, I heard about her desperate attempts to track down the baby's real father. She'd tried everything, searching social media, retracing her steps from that night, even hiring a private investigator. But the stranger remained exactly that, a ghost who'd vanished into the night, leaving no trace beyond his DNA in the child he'd helped create. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd tried to trap me with another man's responsibility, only to end up solely responsible herself. Sometimes justice arrives through simple consequences. 3 months after that hospital night, I sat at my kitchen table, morning sunlight streaming through the windows. The same light that had once illuminated our shared breakfast now fell on my solitary coffee mug. I pulled open the drawer where I'd stored that unsigned acknowledgement form, my reminder of how close I'd come to losing everything. The paper felt lighter than I remembered. Amazing how something so simple could have altered the course of my entire life. I tucked it back into the drawer, letting it rest beneath my coffee mug like a battle scar stored away but not forgotten. The warmth of my coffee seeped through the ceramic, grounding me in the present moment. My hands were steady now, my breath coming easy. The apartment felt different, cleaner somehow, as if Kayla's deception had been a heavy fog that had finally lifted. I traced my finger around the rim of my mug, remembering all those nights of doubt, the weight of suspicion, the struggle to stay measured when everything inside me wanted to explode. But I'd chosen a different path. Not rage, not revenge, just truth, calmly revealed and allowed to speak for itself. The morning light caught the steam rising from my coffee, creating a gentle dance in the air. I watched it spiral upward, remembering something my grandfather used to say, "Peace begins where deception ends." Sitting there in my quiet kitchen, I finally understood the full meaning of those words. In the end, that unsigned form had given me back more than just my freedom. It had restored my dignity, protected my future, and reminded me that sometimes the strongest thing a man can do is simply stand firm in his truth. I believe stories such as this find us for a reason. If this one touches you, please subscribe. I share a new one every day, In the meantime, there are two stories on the screen that are even better.